When you think about time, it feels like an endless river, flowing steadily, carrying us from the past, through the present, and into the future. We live our entire lives in its current, measuring it in seconds, minutes, hours, in birthdays and seasons, in the way our hair changes, in the way the people we love grow older. Time feels permanent, unstoppable. But what if that's an illusion? What if one day this river simply stops? Imagine waking up and finding that everything is frozen. Not like in a movie scene where people are paused mid-step, but something far deeper. The earth itself still turns, but there is no now, no later. Cause and effect break apart. The very thing that lets you exist, make choices, and remember the past is gone. This isn't a science fiction fantasy. It's one of the possible endings written into the physics of our universe. And if you think about it, it's terrifying. Time doesn't just mark events, it's the stage on which reality itself plays out. Without it, motion, change, and even thought cannot exist. Our entire concept of existence depends on time ticking forward. But according to what we know, or think we know, there are several scenarios where time, as we experience it, will vanish. Now, before we journey to the very edge of the cosmos and watch time collapse, I want to remind you, if you're fascinated by ideas like this, make sure to subscribe to Animated Wisdom and like this video. It's the simplest way to keep this channel alive. And trust me, the journey we're about to take is one you'll want to stay for until the very last word. Let's start with something strange. Time is not the same everywhere. Einstein showed us that time can stretch and squeeze depending on speed and gravity. The faster you move, the slower your clock runs compared to someone standing still. Near something incredibly massive, like a black hole, time slows dramatically compared to regions far away. This is not just a theory, we've tested it with precise atomic clocks. Time is flexible, relative, and in some parts of the universe, it's already crawling compared to ours. Now imagine the universe billions of years from now. Stars have burned their fuel and collapsed into white dwarfs, neutron stars, or black holes. Galaxies drift farther apart as space itself expands. There's less and less energy, less and less movement. Physicists call one possible endgame the heat death of the universe. The moment when everything reaches the same temperature, no energy gradients remain, and nothing new can happen. At that point, time doesn't stop in the way we stop a clock. Instead, it becomes meaningless. Without change, there's no way to mark its passage. A million years, a billion years, they would feel identical because nothing happens in either span. The universe becomes a silent, motionless void. And here's the twist. In physics, if you can't measure time, if nothing changes, then for all practical purposes, time is gone. But heat death is only one way it could happen. There's also the Big Rip, a far more violent ending. In this scenario, the mysterious force we call dark energy doesn't just push galaxies apart. It accelerates so much that even atoms are torn apart. First, galaxy clusters separate. Then galaxies themselves rip apart. Then stars are shredded, planets destroyed, molecules broken down, until even protons are ripped from existence. In the final instant before everything is unbound, time ends, because there's nothing left to happen. No events, no cause and effect, just the last moment stretched to infinity. But here's something you may not expect. Time could also stop in an instant, without warning, through a vacuum decay event. According to some interpretations of quantum physics, our universe exists in a kind of false vacuum, a stable-looking state that could suddenly, without any sign, tunnel into a more stable state. This would release an expanding bubble of altered physics, moving at the speed of light, erasing our current laws of reality. Inside this bubble, time might not function the way it does here, and you would never see it coming. We don't talk about this much because, well, it's unsettling. But the truth is, the universe has more than one way to erase time. And here's the thing. We don't actually know which is most likely. Each has a scientific foundation, and each has a different timeline. Some far longer than the age of the universe, others potentially tomorrow. You might think, if these scenarios are billions or trillions of years away, why should I care? But understanding them forces us to confront what time really is, and that changes how we see our lives now. Let's take a step back. Time isn't a ticking clock in the sky. It's a dimension, like space. We move through it the way we move through the streets of a city. In physics, time is woven together with space into a single entity, space-time. Without space-time, there is no stage for the universe to exist on. And just as a map can be curved, stretched, or torn, space-time can be altered and possibly ended. Even stranger, time may not be fundamental at all. Some physicists believe it's an emergent property, something that appears only when many pieces of the universe interact. In other words, time might be like temperature. An atom doesn't have temperature on its own. Temperature only exists when you have lots of atoms moving and interacting. If time is like that, then the end of time could simply be the point when the universe no longer has enough complexity to create it. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people who click away when things get deep. And that tells me something. You're one of the curious ones. The ones who see time not just as a ticking clock, but as a mystery waiting to be solved. And for that, I'll give you something to think about. Time might not be a straight arrow from past to future. It might be a loop, or even something we can move through in more than one direction. If time can bend, stretch, and, in theory, stop entirely, then we have to ask an uncomfortable question. Is time something we travel through, or is something we create? Right now, you probably feel like you're moving through time. 1 second flows into the next, and you're carried along like a passenger on an invisible train. But physics gives us another picture, one that's far less intuitive. According to the block universe theory, the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Every moment in history, the day you were born, this very instant, and the last second you'll ever live, is like a page in a vast cosmic book. From this perspective, time doesn't flow at all. It just is, and our consciousness is the thing that turns the pages. This idea sounds philosophical, but it's grounded in Einstein's relativity. The speed of light is constant for everyone, no matter how fast they're moving. To make that work, space and time must be flexible. They adjust for each observer in such a way that one person's now might not be the same as another's. That means the present is not universal. And if the present is relative, then maybe all moments, past and future, exist together permanently. But if the future already exists, what does that mean for free will? Are we simply acting out a script written in space-time? Or is the universe a branching tree, with every decision creating a new page in that cosmic book? Now, if you're still watching, I know you're here for the big questions, and here's where it gets strange. In quantum mechanics, particles can exist in a superposition, multiple states at once, until observed. Some scientists propose that time itself could work like this. The future exists in multiple possibilities, and it collapses into one reality only when it becomes the present. If that's true, then time is not a river or a block. It's a shimmering cloud of possibilities that solidifies only as we move through it. That's beautiful to imagine, but it also means that time isn't as stable as we think. It could theoretically glitch. We might never notice small shifts, but what if the universe itself rewrites its own timeline? There are even theories in cosmology that suggest our universe might bounce, collapsing and restarting over and over again. In that view, time doesn't have a beginning or an end, just endless cycles of birth, expansion, and rebirth. Now, if you're still watching, I know you're here for the big questions, and here's where it gets strange. I know you're here for the big questions.
So what happens to the rest of the film when no one's watching? Is it waiting? Is it non-existent? Or is it unfolding in some invisible, unreachable way? In 2019, an experiment called the Delayed Choice Quantum Eraser shook the physics community because it suggested that an action taken in the present could determine the outcome of an event in the past. That's right, your choices now might influence history. It's one thing to think about the future affecting the present, but the present affecting the past? That's a whole new level of unsettling. If that's true, then maybe time isn't a straight arrow, but a tangled web with cause and effect looping back on each other in ways our brains can barely comprehend. Now, while your mind's still spinning from that, I'll say this. If you're enjoying the ride so far, this is exactly why you should hit subscribe right now. This channel exists for people who crave that mix of science, mystery, and just the right amount of cosmic vertigo. And if you've been here for the last 10 minutes, you're one of us now. Okay, back to it. Let's imagine for a moment that you could step outside time, not just move forward or backward, but leave the timeline completely, like walking off a road into open air. What would you see? The birth of the stars, the rise and fall of civilizations, the moment of your own birth and your own death, all at once. You wouldn't be in time anymore, you'd be looking at it. The ancient Greeks had a word for this, aion, the eternal, timeless state beyond change. Some mystics claim they've touched it in moments of deep meditation. Modern physicists, they might call it a higher dimensional perspective. Whatever it is, it's the closest we can come to imagining eternity. And maybe, just maybe, when time ends for us individually, that's where we go. Now, let's face something we often ignore. Time feels real to us because we age. We measure it in wrinkles, birthdays, and the way our knees start making suspicious noises when we stand up too fast. But that's not time itself. That's just change. Change is the shadow of time. If nothing changed, would time still exist? Picture a universe frozen in absolute stillness. No motion, no decay, no heartbeat. Would there be time in that reality? Or would it simply be, unmeasured and unmeasurable? Einstein's relativity tells us that time is tied to motion and gravity. The faster you move, the slower your clock ticks compared to someone standing still. And near a massive object, gravity bends time, like it bends space. Here's a mind bender. If you could stand on the edge of a black hole without falling in, time for you would slow down dramatically compared to the rest of the universe. You could spend 1 hour there, step away, and find that centuries had passed outside. This isn't just theory, it's been measured. Astronauts on the International Space Station age a few milliseconds slower than people on Earth because they're moving faster. It's small, but it's real. Now imagine taking that to the extreme. A civilization living near the event horizon of a black hole could watch the entire history of the universe race by in what for them might be just a few thousand years. For them, the distant galaxies would whirl through their lifespans like fireworks and fast forward. But there's an opposite scenario too. If you could somehow slow your own biological processes to match that of deep time, say 1 heartbeat every century, you'd experience the universe as nearly frozen. The stars would barely drift in the sky, and whole human civilizations could rise and fall between your blinks. That's the funny thing about time. It's not universal. It's personal. Your now is not the same as someone else's now if you're moving differently or sitting in a different gravitational field. This isn't science fiction. This is physics. But what if we push this even further? What if consciousness itself bends time? Think about it. When you're bored, time drags. When you're in love, time flies. Our perception of time can stretch and compress depending on our mental state. Neurologists know that adrenaline can make moments feel longer because your brain is processing more details per second. That's why near-death experiences often feel like they last longer than they do. So here's a disturbing possibility. If time is linked to perception, then in your final moment of life, in those last few seconds, your mind might stretch them out into what feels like hours, days, or even eternity. And if that's true, then death might not be an abrupt stop, but an infinite slowdown into a single, never-ending moment. This idea has parallels in Tibetan Buddhist teachings about the bardo, a timeless state between death and rebirth. Some quantum consciousness theories even suggest that in that suspended state, the mind could branch into other realities, timelines where you continue living in one way or another. That brings us to the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics. The idea that every time a quantum event could go one way or another, it does both, in separate branching universes. If that's true, then there might be countless versions of you right now. Some who chose differently this morning. Some who are living lives you can't even imagine. And maybe, just maybe, your consciousness jumps between them without you realizing it. Think about all the near misses in your life, the moments you almost had an accident or just barely avoided disaster. Could it be that in another branch you didn't avoid it, and you're simply no longer aware of that version because your consciousness flowed into the surviving timeline? That's not just spooky, it's comforting in a strange way. It means maybe you're always choosing survival without even knowing it. And while your mind is still buzzing with that, let me say this again. If you've been with me this far, your brain is clearly wired for the big questions. Don't just watch, subscribe, and keep exploring this strange universe with me. Because we're not done yet, not even close. Let's step into the far, far future, trillions upon trillions of years from now, when the stars have burned out, galaxies have drifted apart, and the universe has gone cold. Physicists call one possible scenario the heat death of the universe. Not because it's hot, but because it's perfectly uniform. Every bit of energy is so spread thin that nothing can happen anymore. No stars, no planets, no movement, just cold emptiness. Time itself, in a way, would lose its meaning here, because remember, time is the measure of change, and if nothing changes, how do you mark its passage? Now, here's a thought that keeps cosmologists awake at night. What happens to consciousness in such a universe? If the mind is just a process running on matter, and matter has cooled into stillness, then minds like ours can't exist. But, and here's the curveball, information itself can't be destroyed according to the laws of physics. So every thought you've ever had, every moment you've lived, every neuron firing, all of that information is still woven into the fabric of reality. The question is, could that information be reassembled? Imagine an incredibly advanced civilization, not bound by biology, that exists in the last flickers of the universe. They might be able to harvest the faint glow of decaying particles, the last trickle of usable energy, to simulate entire universes inside vast quantum computers. In those simulations, they could resurrect every conscious being that ever lived, right down to their exact memories. In this way, you could wake up trillions of years from now, not realizing you'd been gone for eons. This is the omega point theory, the idea that the universe could evolve towards a final state where infinite computation is possible and every past moment can be recreated. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. In some models, the act of recreating those moments might loop the universe back on itself, starting the cosmic cycle all over again. A new Big Bang with all the same patterns as before. Which means, in this scenario, you've already lived this life many times. You've clicked on this video before. You've heard these words before. You've laughed at the same jokes and wondered the same questions.
Now, imagine for a moment that the universe is not just alive, but also self-aware. How would it communicate? Could gravitational waves be its speech, light its vision, and dark matter its hidden memory storage? The analogy is tempting. Just as our brain has regions we don't fully understand but are crucial for our functioning, the universe has vast portions of dark reality we can't directly perceive, but that control how everything else moves. Some scientists have even speculated that black holes, the most mysterious objects in the cosmos, might act like data processors, compressing and storing the information of everything they consume. If so, they could be the memory banks of the universe, preserving its history for reasons unknown. And if you zoom out far enough, maybe all those black holes are networked together in a way we can't yet detect, just like servers connected in a global internet. This brings us to the truly unsettling possibility. If the universe is alive, then every action we take, every thought we have, is part of its ongoing story. We are not observers, we are participants. And if we are participants, then perhaps the universe notices us in ways we can't yet comprehend. In the next segment, we'll explore what it would mean if the universe could actually respond to us, and how ancient civilizations might have already known this truth. So don't blink, because we're just getting to the part where science, history, and mystery converge. Let's pick up where we left off, imagining a universe that is not just a stage for life, but life itself. If such a cosmic being exists, how would it respond to the countless interactions happening within it? Could it subtly guide the flow of events, just as your brain unconsciously regulates your heartbeat or your breathing? Ancient civilizations seem to believe this very thing. In Egypt, the concept of Ma'at described a cosmic order, an intelligence that maintained balance across the heavens and the earth. The Aztecs saw the universe as a great living entity whose heart was the sun, requiring nourishment to keep the cycles of life going. In Hindu philosophy, the Brahman is the infinite, eternal consciousness that is the foundation of all existence. These weren't random stories. They were attempts to describe something that perhaps they sensed intuitively, a connection between human life and the cosmos. Now, modern science is starting to stumble into similar conclusions, though framed in the language of physics and mathematics rather than myth. Take quantum entanglement, for instance. This bizarre phenomenon allows particles, no matter how far apart, to instantly affect each other's state. In other words, separation might be an illusion. Everything could be connected at the deepest level. If that's true, then you, me, the stars, and the furthest galaxy are all parts of one integrated system, reacting and adapting together.
But here's where things get even stranger. Experiments have shown that our act of observing a quantum event can change the outcome. This is known as the observer effect, and it raises unsettling questions. If the universe behaves differently when it's being watched, could that mean it is aware of being observed? Could consciousness, ours and the universe's, be intertwined? Imagine that for a moment. When we look at the stars, the universe might, in some sense, be looking back. This doesn't mean it's watching like a person. It may be a completely alien kind of perception, one we can't yet define. But it would mean that communication between us and the cosmos is not just possible. It might already be happening, constantly, in ways too subtle for us to detect. This leads us to the idea of feedback loops between humanity and the universe. In complex systems theory, feedback loops are how living systems maintain stability, adapt, and evolve. If the universe operates like a living organism, then events like supernovas, black hole mergers, and even life emerging on planets could be part of these loops, mechanisms through which the cosmos balances and shapes itself over time. Some researchers have gone further, suggesting that life itself might be one of the universe's tools for self-awareness. Just as your brain contains countless individual neurons, each with its own limited awareness, perhaps each conscious being, human or alien, is a neuron in the universal mind. Our collective knowledge, creativity, and even mistakes could contribute to the universe's ongoing learning process. Here's a thought experiment. If the universe is alive and aware, then space exploration might not be us invading unknown territory. It might be us activating dormant parts of its body. When we send probes to Mars or telescopes to deep space, we could be stimulating new connections, just as neurons grow new links when learning occurs in the human brain. In this sense, our curiosity isn't just personal. It might be essential to the universe's own curiosity. Now, think about the great silence, also known as the Fermi paradox, the question of why, in such a vast universe, we haven't found evidence of other civilizations. If the universe is alive, maybe it has a reason for keeping civilizations apart until they reach a certain stage of development. Perhaps like a parent, it waits until its children are ready before allowing them to meet one another. Or perhaps all civilizations are already part of a grander network of communication, one we simply haven't learned to detect yet. Of course, not all scientists agree with these ideas. Many argue that the patterns we see are simply the result of physical laws playing out over time, and that consciousness is a rare accident in an otherwise indifferent cosmos. But even they can't deny the uncanny mathematical harmony that shows up in both life and the universe at large. Before we close this chapter, let's pause for a reminder. If you've been following this journey and your mind is buzzing with new ideas, hit that subscribe button and like this video. It not only helps animated wisdom grow, it makes sure you don't miss the next deep dive into the mysteries that keep us awake at night. In our final segment, we'll tie everything together, science, philosophy, and the human search for meaning, into one ultimate question. If the universe is alive, what does it want from us? And what is our role in its grand design? Stay with me, because this is where everything comes full circle. So, if the universe is indeed alive, aware, and evolving, what does that mean for us? Are we simply fleeting sparks in its vastness, or are we essential threads in its grand design? From the cosmic web of galaxies to the neural networks in our brains, from the laws of physics to the patterns of life, we keep finding echoes, structures repeating, scaling, connecting. It's as if reality itself is whispering a single truth in different languages. Everything is connected. If we truly are the universe becoming aware of itself, then our actions, thoughts, and choices are not isolated. They ripple out into the cosmos, shaping its future, just as the cosmos has shaped our past. That means curiosity is not a hobby. It's a cosmic duty. Our desire to explore, to learn, to create could be the very thing that drives the universe's own evolution. But here's the profound part. If the universe is alive, then every star, every planet, every living thing is part of one great story. We're not just observers standing outside reality. We're participants in a living, breathing masterpiece. And perhaps, just perhaps, the universe isn't asking for worship or fear. It's asking us to play our part with awareness, with creativity, and with care. That means when we look up at the night sky, we're not gazing into emptiness. We're looking into the eyes of our oldest ancestor, and perhaps our greatest future. And so, the final question becomes deeply personal. What will you contribute to this living cosmos? Will you add light, knowledge, and connection? Or will you let the opportunity pass unnoticed? One thing is certain. The next time you feel small under a canopy of stars, remember, you're not just in the universe. You are the universe, and it is alive within you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this exploration sparked wonder in your mind, make sure to subscribe to Animated Wisdom and like this video. It helps this channel grow and keeps the curiosity alive for all of us. And trust me, the next story we uncover might just change the way you see reality.